The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Jerry Renaud. Today we're going to do part 2 of our series on scams and frauds. We're going to talk about some very specific types of frauds that are out there and how you can avoid them. Ryan Sothen from the Nebraska Attorney General's office is back with us. Stick around.
Hi everybody, this is Kim Hachia. Welcome to Live and Learn. My guest today is Dr. Francis Henderson, a retired physician who has returned to a lifelong interest in writing to write and publish a children's book called Dreams. Stay with me as Dr. Henderson reads from that book and we talk about the importance of writing your story for your family.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to be talking about sex trafficking in Nebraska. You don't want to miss this. Stay tuned.
I'm Doug Joes. Today I'm going to visit with Janet Buck, a registered dietitian. We're going to discuss the nutrition requirements as we age. Stay tuned.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. On an earlier show, we had a very special guest who came in and talked to us about scams and frauds and ways that you can try to avoid some of those ways of somebody trying to come in and take your money, and we didn't quite finish it. So we have invited him back from the Nebraska Attorney General's office, the Consumer Protection Division. I think I got it right this time, Ryan Sothen. Ryan, thanks so much for coming back and talking to us today.
Well, hello, Jerry. Thank you for having me back.
Just as sort of a brief reminder, let's talk about some of the ways that people should be thinking about protecting themselves, and sort of go through some of these things once again of what people should be doing to try to make sure they are not going to be the victim of this scam before we talk about some very specific kinds of areas. So let's talk about some of these things. The first one is originating the phone call. If you have to answer the phone, you should not be giving information.
Agreed. Now, if we consider fraud as reported by method of contact, 70% of these attempts now are coming in by telephone. Because of today's network architecture, it is so easy to spoof not only your telephone number, but your caller ID. And none of us can be certain that the entity, for example, that says they're calling from our government, whether it's the Social Security Administration, the IRS, Center for Medicare Studies, we cannot be sure, so we don't want to give out the information. Independently verify, call back on a separate number if you have to, but don't trust unduly that the party is who they say they are.
And it's happening on cell phones too. It's
It is
not just the
happening.
landlines.
Absolutely. In fact, more on cell phones now.
Okay. Government will always send a notice through the U.S. mail. They are not going to call you, correct?
That is correct. So be highly suspicious of anyone saying that they're the IRS, especially by phone. The IRS is going to reach out to you by phone, period.
And if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
I agree. That could be the tagline to the Consumer Protection Division. That
Yes.
hasn't changed since my grandparents told me that.
And the sense of urgency, that's one that we always get. It has to happen right now or something else is going to happen.
Urgency is always a red flag. It's a clear indicator of a scam in the making. Typically, there's an offer too good to be true or too compelling to ignore. Urgency is applied that the senior has to do something not now but right now. What is it they have to do? They have to make an immediate payment.
Yeah, so it has to involve money, right? If somebody
It
is
does.
demanding money from you, be skeptical.
Be very skeptical.
Okay, and the person then wants some sort of identifying information, personal information. That should be a red flag.
It's definitely a red flag because if I can't steal from you now, I'll steal from you later. Through the personal identifying information that I obtain from you, I can perpetrate identity theft.
Okay, let's talk about some of these specific scams. The one that is probably, or at least the one we hear about the most, is identity theft. We have some videos that we'd like to play to help get us started on all of these. So let's play that video right now.
Okay.
You got money, I got a way to take it from you. Watch this. Dear valued customer, please verify your social security number, address, blah, 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 blah. Send. I go into her social network, find out her birth date, her hometown, and boom! I am Darla in Greenville. Easy peasy.
Visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network to learn how to protect yourself from identity theft, fraud, and this guy.
Sorry, Darla. Not really.
Isn't it frightening how easy it looks and how easy it seems for them to be able to do this and grab your identity?
It is frightening. 3 items in quick response. One, this is showing the importance of what we call keeping a clean machine. If you're keeping personal identifying information on your computer, and who isn't,
Yes.
it is important to keep that operating system updated, as well as antivirus, anti-malware. Use a long and strong password to protect the information as well.
And maybe change that password?
I would say change that password approximately every 90 days. And then to prevent the likelihood of identity theft, there's something known as a security freeze, which puts you, the consumer, in charge of the release of the details of your credit report. The good news is that all charges associated with the security freeze, placing, lifting, now free here in Nebraska.
Okay, let's talk about one that seems, again, pretty commonplace. I would bet almost everyone has gotten some sort of phone call saying that they owe money to the IRS. Here's another little fun little video. I guess I shouldn't call them fun videos, but here's another example of how this could work.
The IRS.
He's coming for you.
Mrs. Roberts? Yes, this is George Hudson from the IRS. You play on their ignorance, right? You say you got interest penalties, you could lose your house, all that stuff.
It's
and they're
like a nightmare came knocking at their door.
Yes, you do owe, ma'am. Our records indicate that you do. Records don't lie. We need you to pay that today. All right, debit card it is. Yes, just give you the number, expiration date, and the security code on the back. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, people of America.
One that we certainly want people to be aware of. There's something about the IRS that scares people to death. And somebody calls and says they're from the IRS, everybody goes, whoa.
Well, this is the perfect example of the offer too compelling to ignore because of the negative consequence that is attached. As we discussed earlier, the IRS is not going to communicate with you by telephone. Also, if you have an outstanding past due debt, this is going to be a known debt. You're not learning of it first time by phone. The IRS also will never ask for payment over the phone, will never ask for a credit card number. However, consumers now need to be aware that the IRS is allowed to outsource a portion of its debt collection to third parties. There are 4 companies nationally that can do this. That information is available on our website and from our office, but they are CBE, Conserve, Performant, and Pioneer. So be aware that, again, you would know if your debt has been outsourced. Otherwise, you're never going to hear from a representative even of the IRS by phone.
So if somebody calls and says they're from the IRS or they're from a subsidiary company,
be skeptical and hang up.
Okay. Should they call back and check anything, or just that's enough, just let it go?
They can independently verify if it's one of these 4 companies. They can ask for verification of the debt in writing.
Okay. Here is one that I would bet everybody has gotten at some point in time, and that is something pops up on your computer as you are typing along that all of a sudden there's some sort of virus or something that is going wrong. Let's take a quick look at this video and talk about this on the other side.
It starts with a pop-up window on your screen telling you you've got a problem. Or it's a phone call from a helpful technician saying you've been infected with a virus, or they've noticed your computer is running slow. They claim to know something is wrong with your computing device, and for a fee they can fix it if you'll just give them control of your computer. It's called the Microsoft Tech Support Scam, so named because the scammers often claim to be employees or partners of Microsoft. But they may tell you they work for other well-known tech companies too. It's a swindle that's growing fast.
If a consumer receives one of these fraudster calls, they can report it to Microsoft at www.support.microsoft.com/reportascam.
When this happens, when this pops up on your computer screen, and I guarantee you it has happened to almost everybody, what do you do?
Well, again, this is underlying the importance of keeping a clean machine, keeping your operating system and all antivirus, anti-malware up to date. But understand the threat. No one is monitoring your computer or your internet traffic, and the danger here is that they're going to remove a non-existent virus for a handsome fee, dupe you into paying for ongoing monthly monitoring and maintenance, and then also place malware on your machine, which will be designed to steal your personal information. So I would just find a way to abruptly hang up the phone and not take the bait.
And sometimes it pops up on your computer screen, and it's hard to get rid of. That there's something there that you need to do something right away. Should you clear out the cache, or should you do something?
If you can't click the X in the upper right-hand corner, then you'd probably be well served to hard reboot the machine, which is to restart the machine. And yes, then I would recommend clearing out both the memory and the cache if you know how to do that. Fairly simple procedure.
Okay, let's talk about one that is probably fairly new, at least in terms of maybe for seniors, and that is the romance scam. Let's take a look at this video and we'll talk about it.
I'm not dead, but I almost died last year. I was a victim of a romance scam by a man I met on eHarmony and lost over $1 million. My husband was, he became sick. He actually got brain cancer. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I fell for it.
Anyone could be a victim. Not only do these people get taken and separated from their money, oftentimes their entire life savings, they're also emotionally abused by these scammers.
Ryan, this is just tragic that people are playing on the loneliness of people.
It's heartbreaking, and it is growing in terms of its popularity, largely because the stigma of moving into the online dating world is being reduced. In fact, the second fastest growing cohort is age 55 and above for finding love online. Recognize the signs, though, is that you'll work forever to come up with that successful profile. You'll put it out there, you'll get a very fast response, a wink, a message. You'll be encouraged to move offline quickly, share your email, perhaps your phone number. There'll be a fast confession of love and affection. You'll be moving towards this meeting. You'll be looking forward to the meeting because this person is telling you everything that you've longed to hear. And then just before that scheduled meeting, something's going to have come up. And that something, whatever it is going to be an obstacle overcome through what? Some form of immediate payment required.
Sure, right. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and this is again a pretty popular one, and this is where somebody calls and either impersonates a grandson or somebody that you know who is in trouble, and it's a lot of times it's grandparents who are getting schemed. Let's take a quick look at the video and we'll talk about it.
Yellow. I got a phone call saying, Grandpa, I've had an accident. I'm out here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I got picked up. I've been drinking. I says, Jeff, is this you? It don't sound like you.
If they say it doesn't sound like you, you can say, well, in the accident, I hit my nose or something. And first, you want to establish the trust again. You want to tell them to keep it between us. Send me $3,000 to $4,000. There was an accident. I can't get into details right now. I just want to let you know that I'm taking care of it. I got a good lawyer.
So I took it up, paid Western Union, sent it off.
This is another sad, tragic one. Sometimes these phone calls come in the middle of the night because it gives it sort of that more urgent sense.
Third most popular scam after calls from the IRS and Windows Tech Support. Quickly, I can say that the quickest way to debunk this before you're marching off to the bank to pay the fee that's going to rescue the grandchild, call your grandchild. Call them on their cell phone.
Yes, that's the perfect thing to make sure we call. Okay, so one quick, again, look at if somebody thinks they've been scammed in some fashion, we need to report it. So let's put some numbers up here on the screen of where people should call, where should they go to report this information.
We want all Nebraskans to know that they have a friend in the Attorney General's office. Please reach out to us directly by phone at 1-800-727-6432 or online at protectthegoodlife.nebraska.gov. You can fill out a complaint form or register a fraud or scam that you're concerned about. But please do let us hear from you, because underreporting is a serious problem. We're here to help stage the financial and emotional recovery to the degree that we can.
Ryan, thank you so much. This is such an important issue, and it's an ongoing one. Please come back and see us again sometime.
Thank you again for having me. Be delighted to return.
Thank you. And thank all of you for tuning in today to Live and Learn. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Vulnerable and senior adults might be living in silent fear of elder abuse and financial exploitation. We can do something about it. The Nebraska DHHS recommends that communities maintain and improve resources such as public transportation and senior centers to prevent social isolation. Engage professionals in various disciplines to find solutions to end elder abuse. Every year, June 15 is observed as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to ensure justice for all.
Hi everybody, my name's Kim Hachia. Welcome to Live and Learn. My guest today is Dr. Francis Bud Henderson, and he practiced medicine for more than 50 years. And after retirement, he returned to an early interest in writing, and he's recently published a new children's book. It's called Dreams. Welcome to the show, Dr. Henderson.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. I'm super excited that you're here. I'm wondering if you'll consent to reading a few pages of this charming little book.
Sure. Love to.
Okay.
Of course, the name is Dreams, and I'm just going to start after a page. Some dreams are happy, scary or sad, about things forgotten, about things you've had, about things you wished for, or times you were bad. Dreams may be funny, cause you to giggle, or see you squirm like a worm with a wiggle, or run like a dog with a tail you can wag, or snuggle your kitten too tired to play tag, or climb up a fence with sharp barbs that snag. In dreams you can do things you can't do at all, like fly over trees, or bounce when you fall, or look short and pudgy, or skinny and tall, or sit still and quiet, or dance up a wall. Some dreams are happy, like birthdays that treat you, or scary with monsters coming to eat you, but all disappear from your sleep or your nap once you're awakened by a sound or a clap. Other dreams come, not asleep, but awake, of great things to do, or long trips yet to make, or what you will be when you're no longer small, great things no one ever imagined at all. Things to help people be healthy or wise, or build mighty towers that rise to the skies, or write special stories that bring tears to eyes, or paint magic pictures worthy of prize. Such dreams as these need not disappear. Keep them within you, treasured and dear. A seed carefully planted like that will soon seem to blossom in time as your own special dream.
Thank you. I think this is such a charming book. That couple of things that I really like about it are you kind of talk about how dreams are two things. There's the dreams you have when you sleep, and then the dreams you have that are sort of a wish or a hope. I know that you were a pediatrician for a number of years. So did you talk about things like this with little children?
Yes.
And
frequently.
Frequently? Would they tell you that they had a dream or that things were scary for them sometimes, yes, or not scary?
And of course we had 4 children, so they had dreams as well.
Right, right. So you have moved here recently from Arkansas, where
yes,
you spent most of your adult life. And when did you take up this writing and this new avocation of being a children's author?
Well, actually, since I've retired. I retired in '81, and
at 81.
Yes, at 81, and began to write. I've wanted to write since I was in high school, and had done writing, but not creative writing, and decided it was time to do that. And I've always been interested in children, both personally and professionally. So children became my major focus of interest.
So you told me you took a class or something when you were living in Arkansas that helped you, I don't know, got you started. Writing has been such a personal joy for you. Would you recommend it for other people? And how should they get started?
Well, I started following a very embarrassing situation. I had written a scientific article, published it in the Journal of American Medicine. It went worldwide and people were very interested and had written for copies. And several years later, I picked up that article that I had written, and it was so terribly written that I was embarrassed and decided to take a writer's course at that time. Decided to go in creative writing, so I thought it would give me more of a challenge to be a better writer. So that got me started, but actually, since then it's been groups of people, critique groups. It's been many, many people who have taught me how to write.
So what would be your number one hint that you would give to somebody who maybe wants to explore writing? You're kind of writing a fictionalized memoir.
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Yes, that's the thing. I think anybody who has an interest in writing ought to write. But I think mainly I would put an emphasis on our elderly population writing. They are the ones who've lived our modern history, and that history is being lost, and it could be well documented from them writing their experiences, because if they don't write those experiences, some wonderful history is going to be lost. So I would encourage elderly groups to write.
I know that you told me that your fictionalized memoir is about sort of your memories of being a child during World War II. I find that fascinating because that's probably an area that hasn't really been very well examined or interrogated.
There's been some writing about it, but we had an interesting history. I was at an age where it's easily remembered. It's just preteen and teenage during those years. And I was starting to write it mainly for my children and my grandchildren. I wanted them to know what sort of problems we faced during those years. It was quite a time of sacrifice and quite different from our days today.
Right. I as a person my career has focused on writing, and I really I admire people that enjoy writing as much as I like to write, and it's I've learned so much about other things doing the research for the writing, and it's fun. It's a good time. So, is there a difference between writing for adults and writing for children, and how do you think those differ?
Most people think that it's much easier to write for children. It's not. You have to be far more specific. You have to be simple. You need to, children's literature needs to be, in my opinion, quite pictorial, where they can see mental pictures as they're reading, and needs to be exciting. And the necessity of choosing specific words becomes very important. So writing children's literature to me is a variation of writing poetry. And so choosing necessary words, keeping it simple and keeping it brief is the major difference between adult creative writing.
Well, I know you told me that this particular book, Dreams, it is very poetic. It does read like a poem, but you told me that there's a specific number of lines or something that many children's books follow that sort of rubric.
This is a picture book. And most picture books are about 36 pages long.
Okay.
25 to 36 pages. And so it's, you need to choose your words. You usually need 500 words or less for a picture book. So trimming a story down to 500 words that has a beginning, middle, and ending that carries some sort of theme and significance to the children becomes a bit of a challenge.
Right, it's like writing a news story.
Yeah.
A long news story is usually about 500 words now. It used to be much longer, but you know, telling the story of a fire or something in 500 words can be a real exercise in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you write, do you write in longhand, or I feel like the guy on book notes now? But are you writing in longhand? Do you use a computer?
I use a computer,
computer.
But I have more yellow pages than either an attorney or a journalist, and I write all over those. I write on napkins. I write on anything that is handy when I get an idea. So I have a collection of all sorts of media material that has been used to compile into my writings.
And I know that the publisher of this book is a Lincoln Company.
Yes.
And also the artist she's from Lincoln, correct?
Yes.
And that was, we probably have time. Tell me the story of how you got connected with her.
With
It was
Carissa?
Yeah, it was kind of a fluke.
Her name had been given to me by a granddaughter's husband, and I lost it. I asked Marcus again who the name was, and he had lost it. But we have caregivers that help my wife, and one day those poor caregivers had to listen to these stories, and I told her, one of the caregivers, that I was looking for an artist, and she says, "Oh, my daughter does that." So it turned out I contacted her daughter, who was Carissa, and we've had a relationship going now. And she did such a great job on this book.
Yeah, the pictures are just charming.
Yeah,
and
they're really great.
And I love that the little children have different ethnicities and different looks, and I think that's just really, really a sweet thing. I know your book is available wherever good books are sold, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, well, I hope people will look at this book, because I think it's really, really a fun and charming book. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show and agreeing to do that. I appreciate that you are urging other people to, exercise their writing bones, because I think that's, or maybe their writing muscles.
And even if they feel like what they put on paper is not very good can be edited a lot better than blank sheets.
Yes, yes. That is so true. If you don't write that story down, no one's ever going to be able to read it. And
that's right.
And not everything needs to win the Pulitzer Prize. Sometimes you just want to get that story out there and have it be remembered by people that are important to you. And your grandkids will think this is a real gift, I think.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I think you are just such a great example of how it's just you are just never too late to live and learn a new skill like writing.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to talk about the world's oldest profession, sex trafficking. It dates back to 2400 BC. Would you believe it? And with us today, we have Megan Johnson. She is the outreach coordinator, the street outreach director, and Paul Yates, the executive director of I'veGotAname.org. Welcome. And what is the significance of the name, I'veGotAname.org?
There is a story, Lita.
Well,
there is a story.
We love stories.
Our founder, Bob Burton, is at the University of Nebraska, and when he found out about this issue back in like 2009, He was
Well, it's
just
been going on long
Oh,
before
yeah.
that.
When he found out about it in 2009, and his heart was so taken back by it, he got in his vehicle and he heard the old Jim Croce song, I've Got a Name. And he thought, every one of these girls has a name. They should be treated with love, respect, and dignity. So it started as a song, to an event, to a nonprofit, fighting sex trafficking in Nebraska.
Well, I'm glad you've started that. Now, is this really a problem in Lincoln?
Unfortunately, it is. It is a significant problem in Lincoln. Creighton University did some research they published back in 2016 that really put the stamp on the issue. And in the Lincoln area, according to their research, every 30-day period, at least 200 girls are for sale in the Lincoln area. In the state, it's 900. And this information, as valuable as it is always underestimated. It's very difficult to gather this information, but they did a great job. And we're talking about horrific things here. Okay, we're talking about the average age of a young woman involved in the sex trade, involved in prostitution, is 13. Is 13.
That takes my breath away.
They're
children.
They're
That's
children.
a child.
There's a child. The average cost per hour that I say to destroy a life is $210 an hour in this state.
What do you mean? That's what they charge?
That's what they charge, average, $210 an hour in this state to destroy a life. And I understand boys get trafficked too, you know, but it's primarily girls and women that we're fighting for. We'll fight for boys too, but it's young girls. And that's what the Creighton research was just incredible, what they started to open our eyes to, this reality. So yes, it's an issue here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I tell people we need to be more aware about it. We need to react to it. Don't be scared or paranoid, but be aware.
Well, how did this happen? I mean, it goes back to 2400 BC, so it's been going on for a long time, but in Nebraska, we don't think that this kind of stuff could happen.
Yeah, you know, and when we look at even prostitution, it's not a lifestyle choice. And it's certainly not the good life. It's certainly not the good life. And we need to change our perception and understanding of what this is. What's it look like? My daughter, who is in high school here in Lincoln, is vulnerable to this. You know, this has really nothing to do with your ethnic background, where you live, your income bracket. Certainly there are populations that are more vulnerable, but it's the exploitation of vulnerability. What makes you vulnerable to this?
Is this just an I-80 issue? I know lots of the truckers on Interstate 80.
You know, it is an I-80 issue, as a lot of issues on the interstate that goes through our beautiful state. But it's not just in those communities along the interstate. It's throughout our entire state, and that's what the research shows. It's in rural Nebraska as well.
Look at all over the state. Now, so the largest is out in Omaha?
Well, Omaha has a larger population, and you look at Grand Island, it's because of the highway that goes north and south, and Interstate 80 is a conduit of drug trafficking, sex trafficking. It's just along there. But again, understand it's not just in those communities on the interstate.
You know, I'm thinking about the truck drivers on Interstate 80. You know, they're going constantly. And of course, remember, those trucks are so big and there are beds in there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they pull into a truck stop and the girls and maybe boys are waiting there for them.
They can be. And understand.
And then they get into, have sex in there and
unfortunately, the rest stops as well. You know, but understand they're like the trucking associations, they're fighting this too. You know, they're starting to recognize this too. So we all need to be in that fight.
Well, it's a strange title. I've got a name.org. What does that signify? What is that?
Everyone should be treated with love, respect, and dignity. You know, what is your purpose in life? Is it this lifestyle? Certainly not. Certainly not. And I should mention too, Lita, that there are events along that interstate. There are events along the interstate. You have the College World Series.
Oh, yeah.
In Omaha. You have Husker football games here in Lincoln. It's not the event's fault, but these are conduits of this injustice. The Super Bowl coming up.
Oh boy. You
know, it's a big thing in our country. Yeah. So it's significant, but it's in our neighborhoods too. It's in our neighborhoods too. Throughout the community of Lincoln, it's in our neighborhoods.
So I've got a name.org.
Yeah. Yep. I've got a name.org.
Okay. Now, Megan, we're interested in in your story. Please, would you share it with us? Tell us what happened to you and how you got involved in this.
Yeah, sure. I actually grew up in Lincoln, Lincoln, Nebraska. Was really close with my mom, had a really good childhood. So it just goes to show that this honestly can really happen to anybody. I was told I was loved on a daily basis. Years to come, I dealt with a lot of losses in my life. My mom had cancer. I lost my mom. I lost my grandparents. I lost a lot of things at as a teenager. Early in life. And this led me to being vulnerable. I had lost my job. I was introduced to a lady here in Lincoln that owned an escort service. And
Did you drink? Were you get into alcohol early?
After the loss of my mother, I did begin to use drugs to numb the pain.
Megan, what led you to rock bottom?
Honestly, it was in 2008 when the state of Nebraska came in and took my children. At the time, I had 2 boys, and my life was just spiraling out of control. And I believe that everybody has to hit the rock bottom at some point, and it was when they took my children. I was not a good mom at the time.
How old were the children then?
At the time, they were 5 and 10.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a good mom, but it was that unconditional love that I felt with my mom when I was a young child. I remembered that, and at the time, those boys were all that I had. And so it was at that time when the boys were taken, I entered into treatment, and honestly just turned my life around at that point.
Megan, how is your past life influencing the future?
Mm-hmm. So I'm able to use what I've been through in my past to be able to help these vulnerable women or girls that are possibly in a environment right now that they feel like they're stuck in or not able to get out of. I'm able to relate to them on a level that not a lot of people are. When I took on the job as street outreach director, I started reaching out to women and girls, going down. I spent a lot of time going into the jails and connecting with vulnerable women there. I give presentations, and at the end, I ask if any girls or women if it resonates with them or they're a survivor, that I will come back and talk to them. And so that's been a good resource for us. It's just about being broken and vulnerable and lost. And what I tell them is my story may not look exactly like yours, but I am able to relate to them. And they look at me and they say, Megan, I can't talk to anybody. I can't talk to my family. I can't talk to my friends. I have nobody that I can talk to that truly understands what I'm going through. And it's at that point, they look at me and they say, you know what, Megan, I can talk to you.
Because you've been there.
I've been there.
You know what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they get involved in it in the first place?
I think it's about being vulnerable, being vulnerable, being broken. A lot of women, their children, they come from broken homes, broken houses. I mean, there's a lot of things that can drive a person to being led to being trafficked. So. We like to prevent. It's about prevention, and preventing that from even happening is what we're trying to do.
How early sometime does it start? I mean,
I think Paul said the average age is 12, 13.
And I think too, what we're trying to do is it's building relationships. It's building a relationship in a situation that these women or these girls, there's a lot of guilt and shame. It's very difficult. She hit her rock bottom, and some of these women and girls, maybe they've hit the rock bottom, maybe they're walking towards that, and she can help build a relationship with them, because the bottom line, Lita, is we're trying to empower these girls. See, we want to take them by the hand and help them through this stage of their life so they can be like Megan today.
You've come a long way, girl.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and it's one of the most courageous women I've ever met in my life.
Well, how does I've Got a Name fight this?
It's our street outreach. It's our 3 pillars are awareness, understand what this is, that it's real, and then take action. And that's our street outreach. That's what Megan's doing day in and day out. And our third pillar is inspiration. Be inspired, get involved, use your gifts, talk to people. We have social media and everything we can talk about this issue so we can make Lincoln slave-free. We can make Nebraska slave-free.
Now, how can people reach you if they want more information?
The best way to reach us right now is through our website, I'veGotAname.org. And they hit the contact us. I joke and say, well, that's my name, because that stuff comes to me. And we're going to soon have a place on our website that if you're concerned about somebody, you can click and fill out some information, and we'll be back in touch with you. I need to point out, though, Lita, that we are not law enforcement, okay? If you see a situation out there you're concerned about, call your local law enforcement. Call 911 if there's a situation you're concerned about. If it's someone just in need or concerned about someone, contact us. We've had a lot of referrals from people, and Megan starts that process of building relationships. So it's the best way to do it.
Thank you so much for telling us your story. Really appreciate it, and letting our viewers know what's available out there. Our thanks to Megan Johnson and Paul Yates, and trying to build a normal life and obviously being very successful at it. Congratulations. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn about the underbelly of Nebraska.
Vulnerable and senior adults might be living in silent fear of elder abuse and financial exploitation. We can do something about it. The Nebraska DHHS recommends that communities maintain and improve resources such as public transportation and senior centers to prevent social isolation. Engage professionals in various disciplines to find solutions to end elder abuse. Every year, June 15 is observed as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to ensure justice for all.
Welcome to Live and Learn. As we age, our nutrition requirements change slightly. My guest today is Janet Buck, who's nutrition coordinator at Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach, and she's also a registered dietitian and a nutrition therapist. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the details here, tell us a little bit about your role at Matt Talbot.
At Matt Talbot? Well, I am, as you mentioned, a medical nutrition therapist, and so that means I'm qualified to meet with folks that have nutrition-related health conditions and give them advice about ways that they might help that condition. So I meet individually with folks. I have cooking classes for both adults and children, and I also coordinate a vegetable and herb garden, and we actually have some fruit too, some strawberries and rhubarb, and we use the produce from that garden in the cooking classes and to teach about gardening. And
So these are cooking classes at Matt Talbot?
yes. And the public's certainly welcome to contact me if they would be interested in participating in any of those. So,
Janet, one of the keys for this nutrition question is, as we age, is our metabolism. It changes, slows down.
it does, yes. And that's kind of unfortunate for folks who like to eat, because what that means, our metabolism slows down, that means we just don't need as many calories as we used to. If we keep eating at 60 what we used to eat at 20, guess what's going to happen to our weight? It's going to go up. And so kind of key to eating as we get older is to make sure that we're eating more nutrient-dense foods instead of so many calorie-rich foods, especially if we want to maintain our weight and our health.
So that means we need to be conscious of what the nutrition content of our food is, maybe a little more.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't leave quite as much room for soft drinks and alcohol and cookies and donuts and things like that, potato chips that a lot of us like to eat. So,
well, let's talk about specifics here. What about, first of all, protein? That's maybe one that we might think of first.
Protein's really important as we get older, and I think probably what the current official recommendations are might not be quite high enough. We're talking, as people get older, what tends to happen is they tend to lose muscle mass. And in order to maintain that, some of the research is showing that we probably need more protein than our current, the current recommendations. And that, I kind of did a little math. What that would mean if you're 165 pounds, you probably need about 30 grams of protein per meal. And that's also the recommendation, that we spread it out through the day instead of just eating it for 2 meals perhaps, or even just 1.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next, is that we need to think about that for each meal then.
Right. And that actually is a fair amount of protein. It's kind of hard to get that much in. For instance, a breakfast of 2 eggs and a cup of milk and an ounce of cheese, so say if you're going to make an omelet, would contain that much protein, but that's a fair amount to eat for breakfast. And as we're getting older, our appetites sometimes are going down too. So
we can't have just carbs for breakfast.
Well, that's actually, not maybe the best thing to do, not eating even our cereal and milk. Well, milk has some protein, so that would be good. But
then moving on, vitamins, again, it's something that we hear about. Which are the key vitamins that are pertinent here?
Yeah, some of them that really our needs kind of change for as we get older are particularly vitamin D and vitamin B12. And then vitamin A is important too, but vitamin D is called the sunshine vitamin.
Right.
And that's when the sun hits our skin, the precursor of vitamin D gets formed in our body. And that ability kind of decreases as we age. So we need to make sure that we're getting some vitamin D in our diet. And milk, of course, is fortified with vitamin D, so
Right.
that's a good source of that too. And when we talk about minerals in a minute, we also need vitamin D to help absorb calcium, so to keep our bones and our teeth and our nerves healthy. So.
Do you recommend supplementary vitamins?
I am thinking, especially because of the B12 too, I didn't talk about that. I'm going to back up a minute here. Also, as we age, our stomachs are not as acidic, and so we have problems absorbing the vitamin B12, which is only found in animal foods. So then it is recommended that over age 50 that maybe we start taking a supplement of B12 and the D and some of the minerals I'll talk about in a minute too. So kind of a good multivitamin mineral supplement might not be a bad idea as we get older.
Well, let's talk about those minerals. Which ones are key here?
Well, we talk about iron, zinc, calcium, and then sodium are ones of particular note. And that's because zinc sometimes we're not getting enough of that, because again, as our taste change, and we'll talk about that in a minute too, but we don't maybe get as much zinc from the foods that we eat, and zinc is really important for our immune function to help keep us healthy and for taste. So if we're not getting enough zinc, and then we don't have a good taste, so that can kind of be a double whammy there. Iron, usually our needs don't increase unless we have some sort of a health condition or we're not getting enough foods that contain iron. And of course meat is one of those. It's costly as we get older. Our tastes change, so a lot of times people aren't getting enough iron containing foods. Calcium, again, found in dairy and milk, and again, folks often are not getting the recommended amount, and actually as we get older, the recommendations for intake of calcium increase over age 50 for women and over age 70 for men. So,
you mentioned sodium. Is the issue there too much sodium?
Yes, yeah. As most of our society, we eat too much salt. And even as we get older, again, that becomes more of an issue, and the needs for sodium actually decrease as we age. So less need for those salty things that we tend to like.
We hear a lot these days about fats, and give us a short summary here about the good and the bad of the fats.
Yeah, again, that doesn't really change too much as we get older, except for the fact that, again, we tend to eat a lot of fried foods, a lot of baked foods with a lot of fat, period. you can kind of divide fats into two camps. You can divide them into unsaturated and saturated. And kind of a guideline is that unsaturated are liquid at room temperature and saturated are solid at room temperature. And so we'd like to try and encourage people to eat more of the unsaturated fats, more of the oils and less of the butters and sour creams and things like that.
So are most of the oils okay? Are they similar?
They all have different chemical makeups, but in all of the oils that are actually oil at room temperature are mostly composed of unsaturated fats, yes.
You mentioned eggs earlier on, which brings up the question about cholesterol, and you know, we've gone through phases here of eggs are good and eggs are bad and so on. So where do we stand now?
Where do we stand? And a lot of people think that the scientists that study these things change their story, and it wasn't really that as much as they started to look into what actually were the detrimental effects, if there were any, of eggs. And in the past, they used to think that the cholesterol that we eat directly affected the cholesterol in our bodies that then can clog our arteries up. As they started to look at all the research that had been done, they thought that more it was the unsaturated fat, and eggs are not as high in unsaturated fat. And they are actually a very good protein source, inexpensive protein source. So.
Inexpensive, you said?
Yes.
Yes, true. So, you know, it's fine to have eggs with your breakfast.
Yeah.
Or actually, you're recommending it, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
This is all very important and maybe a little serious here, but let's finish up on an upbeat. Can we still have snacks and treats?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not one to say, well, never eat anything sweet, because I think we all have sweet tooth. And as we get older, again, our tastes kind of change. Our taste buds decrease in number, so we tend to crave more salty and sweet things.
Okay.
So, you know, some things that you could have are like a parfait, where you have yogurt, which gets you some of the dairy, you've got some grain, you've got some fruit, some things like fruits and just yogurt fruit dip. Dark chocolate is always something that we recommend. Trail mix with some dried fruit and nuts, just plain nuts. And then baking, use some applesauce instead of the oil for all of those calories. And one of the main things is watch your portion sizes. You know, you don't need a piece of cake like that. You need, you know, try to limit your portion sizes. So, yeah.
Janet, this is very interesting insights. Thank you very much. We ought to mention before we finish here, there are lots of sources of dietary help around the city, including Aging Partners. And you recommend people consult with these folks like yourself?
Sure. I think Lincoln has a really good network of food resources to help folks. We actually have a small food pantry at Matt Talbot too that we can give people every few months. We don't give it out all constantly. And there are several places in town that also do food pantries. There's FoodNet, where they take excess foods from grocery stores and restaurants, and that's available for folks too. So a lot of public agencies like Aging Partners and some of the grocery stores actually have dietitians on staff that can help maybe with the shopping? Yes, absolutely. I know that the Hy-Vee stores, not just in Lincoln, but around this area, hire dietitians, and that's one of the things that they're available to do, is give tours of grocery stores and help people pick out the better choices. So.
Janet, thanks a lot for these insights and things that we ought to be thinking about as we age a little bit. Thank you very much.
You're certainly welcome. Yes, glad to
I'm
be
Doug
here.
Jose. It's never too late to live and learn.
I'm Sharon Cheney with Aging Partners here in Lincoln, and wanted to talk just a little bit about winter walking and getting out in the winter, still continuing your exercise program, but without the fear of falling. Okay, so We've got a few props. We'll show you a couple of things. We have this cane with the attachment that just snaps off like that, and then they put this right there when you're not using them. It just folds right back up like that, and so that's a nice addition to your cane for safety. If you're going out and you think it might be slick, have this in your car. It's just a bottle with a fairly large opening that you can keep sand or ice melt or something in it, so when you get out, you can kind of sprinkle it around till you get the feel of the ground beneath your feet. Have you ever stepped out of your car and there, whoops, and then there you are sitting on your rear end? So that might help you with that. We've also got shoe grippers on the bottom. Yakstrax is, I'm not promoting anything, this was just a brand that will fit over your shoe. And then leave these shoes right by the doorway because they can be slick in your house on wood floors. Also, you may want to think about how we walk. You know, some of us, we just walk real stiff and everything. Have you ever noticed penguins walk? They're always so fun. They always kind of like, they walk like this with their legs out like that, and then they just kind of waddle. But when we think of humans, we need to keep our knees a little soft and just walk slow enough, give yourself a wider base, and there you are. Some other options, we were talking about mall walking. Gateway is a wonderful place to walk because it's all indoors. Be careful coming in and out because as you step off some of those rugs, be sure that it's not slippery there. But you can also come, Aging Partners has a wellness facility, has exercise bikes, has treadmills, all sorts of activities that you can partake in. And also just think of a big grocery store. You can walk in a big grocery store. If you're out there buying things for your home, may as well just walk a few extra laps and then you're done. If you have your druthers and you don't have to be out, and there's no place you really need to get to, just hold on till the streets are cleaned a little bit more. Just kind of, kick back, walk through your own house. If you've got stairs, you can walk up and down them, you can walk around. And like I say, you might feel like you're kind of funny, but it does get you out of that chair and get you moving again right in your own home. What we want you to do is stay safe and stay happy during this holiday season and all through the winter. Just stay safe. Thank you.